Hulu's original series, Reasonable Doubt. Let's just jump off into it. A lot happened in episode 4, but I really want to concentrate on everything that happened around Ozzie and Ozzie's impending murder trial. So the episode opens up with Jax popping up at Ozzie's house to get some information from his sister. She knocks on the door and Kristen opens the door like, she's like, hi. She's like, hi. Well, Ozzie's asleep and she's like, I'm here to talk to you. And so they step outside and have a conversation. This is where Jax is at this particular time. The trial is starting very soon, and she is now desperate to find out where was Ozzie on the night of Wendy's murder and who Ozzie was with. Because as of now, he has doubled and tripled down that he was alone at home. But we understand that that may not be true. And Jax needs an ironclad alibi for Ozzie, and she doesn't have that right now. And so the sister confesses 2 things. Number one, she let Jax know that the night that Ozzie overdosed, the drugs that he overdosed on, she supplied him. But what she also says is that she did not supply the drugs the night of Wendy's murder. And Jax is just, one step from begging, like, if you know about any information that will help to solidify Ozzie's alibi, we need to know now because the trial is starting this week. And the sister gives information for Ozzie's old drug dealer. And maybe he was the one that supplied Ozzie the night that Wendy was murdered. She leaves there and she returns to her office, and her team huddle up to figure out what their angle will be in his murder trial, what his defense angle will be, right? And so we know now that he was sexually abused. And Jax is thinking that using this information could sway a certain type of juror. And the jury selection starts, right? And she is really approaching this from a strategic manner of who could she select that would have empathy and compassion for Ozzie with the circumstances that has happened, right? And so in one scene, she brings in, I don't remember the lady name, but she bring in, let's just say Susan from accounting, right? Susan from accounting looked like somebody's Mima, okay? And Jax begins to ask her questions like, do you know who Ozzie is? And she's like, yes. And she asks, how do you feel about Ozzie? And she was like, well, I just think, what happened was horrible. And Jax asked her, if I told you that he was sexually abused when he was a child and that he got addicted to drugs because of that, what would you think now? And that completely turned the lady from thinking that he was a monster to this empathetic, like, wow, like I would actually, pray for him. Like he's a victim, poor baby, that all of this has happened to him. No wonder he turned out to be this way, right? And this is the goal of Jax. You got to think again, Jax is desperate. We don't have a solid alibi for Ozzie yet. So she's digging. She's trying to figure out how can she approach his defense strategy in order to get this man off on murder charges, right? So they go through the juror interviews, which is very interesting. They're asking the potential jurors about if they attend church. Jax asked a panel of the potential jurors, were they mothers? They were asking questions about their TV watching habits. Did they watch criminal TV? Did they have history of family members who've been drug addicts? And they come to a place to where by the end of the episode, they have finalized their selection of the jurors, right? And so let's just go back to Jax needing to figure out her strategy to defend him, because let me remind you, it's not looking good for Ozzie at all. If you remember, Wendy's body was found at a cabin that's owned by Ozzie. The gunshot wound that Wendy suffered was from a gun that's registered to Ozzie. And the last person known to have seen Wendy alive was him. And the last time that is captured of Wendy and Ozzie interacting was him yelling to the top of his lungs in a very heated argument with her from ring camera footage from his neighbor's door. Okay. This would be a slam dunk for prosecutors. Okay. Jax needs a way to really establish reasonable doubt in the minds of these jurors with something. And that something is going to be his sexual abuse. But Jax, before they're able to deploy this strategy, she suggests to Ozzie to have a conversation with his parents about it. And he has to sit down and talk to his parents about what's happened. And they, in this scene, his mom and dad walk into his house. Jax self-excuses herself, and Ozzie asks if she would stay. So Jax kind of sits off to the side while he is having this very intimate, vulnerable conversation with his parents. And he has to let them know, like, listen, my team thinks that me divulging things that have happened to me will actually help my defense case. And this thing that has happened to me, that I was sexually abused when I was 13 years old. And of course, this caused immediate stress and strife with his parents. And they're just like, how could this have happened? Who did it? And his father makes a statement like, who is he that violated my child? And I want to kind of stop and talk about that a little bit. It's kind of interesting that the assumption from his father was a man that sexually violated him, as if a woman, approaching him in a sexual manner without his permission, or, taking advantage of him in that way would not be considered sexual abuse. And if you remember in episode 3, when he sat down with Jax's therapist friend, he described it to the therapist as if it was, consensual. He did not have the perception of it being abuse. Because you got to think is that in a lot of times, little boys are taught that, number one, you never refuse a woman's, advances. Otherwise, it makes you gay and other things, a coward, but that it makes you a man when you conquer a woman, or when you engage with a woman or a girl in a sexual manner. And that can be confusing to a child's mind if that's the type of messaging that's being portrayed, to the point to where when he's actually being violated, he does not perceive it as a violation. And he reveals that it was a woman, and the mom is just sitting there. She's like, well, who was it? Was it the makeup artist? And he's like, he's not one. He did not divulge who it was. But they have this conversation. He's like, I just didn't think y'all were going to believe me. And they were like, of course I would believe you. But it was a very sobering moment, a very vulnerable moment. Just one more layer that we're learning about Ozzie. One more onion layer that's peeled back to where we're able to really see him more so as a human being than just a murder suspect, in the unaliving of his girlfriend. And so as it carries on, the trial is getting ready to start. Now, let me tell you about what Daniel did. So towards the beginning of the episode, Kristen, which is Ozzie's sister, Daniel and Kristen are snuggled up on Ozzie's couch having, some type of conversation. And she divulges that even though Ozzie on screen comes across as a very extroverted person, he's really an introvert in real life. It could be the reason why that he always journaled over the years. And Daniel was like, "Oh, he journaled," and that was a light bulb for him in his investigative mind. You know what I mean? And so later on in the episode, right before the jury selection starts, he gives Kristen a call and like, "Hey, I think I left one of my notebooks in your brother's house, or like, are you in the area?" And she's like, "Well, I'm gonna be out of pocket for the next hour, but there's a spare key, somewhere." And she lets him know where the spare key is. And he's sold to her that without this notebook, it really would be a detriment, to the beginning of his trial. So she allows access to Ozzie's house, and this man go in this house looking for these diaries, looking for these journals, and he finds the journals. And towards the end of the episode, you see he's starting to go through them, and finds out who the perpetrator is, who the sexual perpetrator is. And it's Monica, his manager. And the episode closes out with Monica coming into Ozzie's house. It looks like uninvited. Ozzie finna get this bong lit up. The earlier part of the episode, that his private doctor pays him a visit and just let Ozzie know, like, you need to get some rest. And I suggest, to wean off the desire to want to, basically shoot up and the anxiety that you're experiencing, I suggest you to indulge in some medical grade marijuana. So at the end of the episode, you see he finna get it in. But here comes Monica walking in and like seducing him. You gotta see it, because it's just a really telling, poignant part of Ozzie's story. And he has had to defend himself from this woman. And he states in the journal entry that Daniel reads that, "I finally was able to say no to Monica." So you had this woman violating him for a very long time, and him not really being able to stand up to her and tell her no. This is definitely going to assist Jax and to defend his case. How far will this get her into convincing the jury that he is a victim of circumstance, a victim of abuse, a victim of addiction? And if that's going to be able to sway them in how they view his role, participation, or even culpability in the murder of his girlfriend. It got deep, y'all. All right, my favorite song. I'm different. I'm different. I'm different. I'm different. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Y'all know what song I'm talking about. 2 Chainz. I'm different. I'm different. I'm different. Yeah, I'm different. I don't think they played the song, but it was only the beat, but yeah, no. And then my favorite hairstyle. So there was a scene where it's shown at Jax's home. They're getting ready to have dinner together. And the kids walk in, they're like, "Hey, is dinner ready?" And Jax is seen in this crop top gray sweatshirt with some high-rise blue jean pants, and her hair is styled in like this beehive bun. The beehive bun was neatly done. She had, I think, like a little piece of hair kind of coming out kind of coming out, maybe like, like a little side bang or whatever. But I thought it was a really cute hairstyle. There is a scene where they are walking into court. I believe this is day one of the trial. And Ozzie has on this dark gray suit with a black dress shirt underneath, no tie. It was simple, but it stood out as very, very gentlemanlike, very demure. But that wraps up episode 4. I just had to talk about because a lot happened, okay? You got to check out episode 4. And as of the recording of this video, baby, episode 5 is already up. And when I say that they getting into it, they getting into it. Until next time, y'all stay safe out there. Tune in, catch up, and I'll see you in the next one.